What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Week 14. Final week of the fantasy regular season kicks off tonight with an incredibly strong matchup, at least on paper, between the Packers and the Lions. A couple of heavyweights in the NFC, a couple of heavyweights in their own division. A lot of fantasy appeal, a lot of intrigue for the NFL playoffs, and a lot of intrigue for our fantasy rosters in tonight's game. There's a lot of obvious starts. There's a couple of flex options. We'll get to all of those. And then, of course, as always, take a look at the latest injury updates that we have from across the NFL with start-sit questions probably starting to come into a little bit more focus. And then, of course, your questions. And a lot to get through as far as news from the past couple of days. We'll start with a look for tonight's game. It is in Detroit, so it's in the Dome. No weather concerns there. And I believe the game total, the over-under right now is around 50, 51. So we're expecting points to be scored on both sides of the football tonight. You can comfortably start the guys that are regularly in your starting lineup. That is all of the running backs that are regularly involved in this game. Josh Jacobs, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, all are in your starting lineup. And obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is in your starting lineup. There's not a whole lot of analysis to required there, I don't think. These guys are slam dunks. Jaden Reed, Sam Laporta, I think are also perfectly fine to start. Laporta as your starting tight end. Reed as one of your starting wide receivers, especially if you start 3 receivers. But honestly, even if you only start 2, he is still absolutely viable. This is a great matchup on paper for Jaden Reed. The Lions are a tough defense, but they can be had by opposing wide receivers, mostly because teams often find themselves trailing against the Detroit Lions. Therefore, they need to throw the football out of necessity, so that's increased volume for opposing wideouts. So Jaden Reed can be fired up in this game as a strong wide receiver too. Sam Laporta can be fired up on the other side of this as a tight end 1. We're not expecting 2 touchdowns, but maybe a little bit more volume than 3 catches, 2 or 3 catches, offsets. Some potential touchdown variance here for Sam Laporta tonight. As far as the quarterbacks, they are both so-so options. Jordan Love, Jared Goff, both on the low-end QB1 radar here. Goff is obviously incredibly volatile. He can give you QB1 weeks, but he can also give you low-end QB2 weeks out of, from stemming from situations where he's just not needed. This Lions team is loaded and have multiple ways to beat their opponents, and it sometimes results in Jared Goff just not needing to throw the football all that much, and therefore that leads to a poor fantasy performance. So with this being a division game, a strong offense in Green Bay on the other side, and a home game for the Lions, Goff is on the low-end QB1 radar, but not high-end or even mid-range. He's just his potential outcomes are all over the map. So low-end QB1, the ceiling is there, but a low floor is as well. I think you can probably actually say this something very similar about Jordan Love. He's tough to bench, but the Lions are they are a good matchup for opposing wide receivers by the numbers, but it's still a tough matchup by the numbers, if you could believe it, to quarterbacks. There's not a direct correlation like, oh, if it's a good matchup for the quarterback, then it must be a good matchup for the receivers. That's not always the case. This is one of those situations. You want to start your opposing wideouts against Detroit, but the defense as a whole is still pretty stingy against opposing quarterbacks. The good news is there's no weather concerns here in the Dome. And if you expect game script to go the way that we would, that is predicted by Vegas, then the Packers are potentially trailing in this game and therefore throwing, and Love could come through on some volume. After that, Tucker Kraft is on the low end, tight end 1. roadmap with no Romeo Dobbs tonight. He is out as he continues to recover from a concussion that he suffered. I believe it was week 12. So he's going to miss a second straight game. So Tucker Kraft, when Dobbs doesn't play, has been solid this year, has caught touchdowns in the 2 games that Dobbs missed. So Kraft is absolutely on the low end tight end 1 streaming radar. This is a tough matchup, though. This is a tough matchup. But tight end is hellish as always. There are 6 teams on bye. There are some viable tight ends that are on bye, so Kraft may be a play that you need out of necessity. Low end tight end 1 radar between need and opportunity here. Jameson Williams also on the flex radar. Again, he's very up and down. There has been a lot of ups this year to JMO's credit. So you can start him as a wide receiver 3. It's just, you know what you're getting yourself into at this point with Jameson Williams. He could pop. He might not. Let's see. JMO. Last week, this was on Thanksgiving. 5 catches for just 28 yards. He ran the ball twice for 18 yards. So, he was involved. He got 7 targets, 9 overall opportunities, which isn't bad. It just didn't materialize into a lot of production. 5 catches for 28 yards is not a lot. I mean, we're not expecting JMO to ever be a volume receiver for us. So we need him to clear that 50 to 60 yards receiving threshold in all likelihood for him to return wide receiver 2-ish, if not high-end wide receiver 3-ish value. There is an opportunity for him to do that tonight if we expect a lot of points to be scored, but it is a tough matchup by the numbers, and JMO is up and down. Last 4 weeks, wide receiver 39, wide receiver 7, wide receiver 28, wide receiver 52. Last week on Thanksgiving, I mean, it's all or nothing. If you need the upside, if you need to be aggressive, play JMO. If you think you can play it safe, if you can get away with a safer play, then maybe bench JMO. The other plays here, obviously, are the Packers' ancillary wide receivers, Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks. I'm only bringing these guys up because Romeo Dobbs is out again for a second straight game. Watson ran a good amount of routes last week in Dobbs' absence. He turned it into 2 catches for 67 yards. So again, very similar to Jameson Williams, although a lighter version of Jameson Williams. I have more faith in, JMO versus Watson 1-for-1. I'll take JMO. Watson is like a lighter version of JMO where he might come through with a big play, but he also has an incredibly low floor. Wicks has been Dontavian Wicks, I feel like, was the guy that was getting pumped up as far as all of the Packers wide receivers in the offseason and leading up to the season. And he's had a week or two here and there, but for the most part, the production hasn't really materialized for Dontavian Wicks. There's no way that I can even consider playing him in deeper leagues. In shallower leagues, he's not even rostered. In deeper leagues, I can't advocate for him. He hasn't had a wide receiver 2 or better performance since week 7. And that does include some games that Dobbs has missed. We're not playing Dontavian Wicks. Not in 14-team leagues, hopefully not even in 16-team leagues, although I guess it's possible in larger leagues, depending on your injury and bye week situation. All right, that's just a quick overview of Packers-Lions. Again, a lot of fantasy factors in all likelihood tonight. Hopefully things go your way. Before I get into injury updates, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to the members that I see. What's going on, MVM? I see Crumply Heads. What's going on, guys? I see Greg, and I just saw E111 pop in. Good to see everybody. Appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out tonight, and everybody coming in and hanging out, spending some time tonight before Thursday Night Football. I will get to questions here shortly, but let's go through the latest injury updates that we have from across the NFL as of this morning. This may help answer a question or two before we actually get into them on a one by one basis. starting with today's updates. The Cowboys took a hit along their offensive line. Zach Martin will undergo season-ending ankle surgery, so yet another piece for Dallas's offense down for the rest of the year. That hurts their offensive. Martin is not the player that he once was, but he's still obviously a viable veteran in there that knows the game, understands the game. He's the type of player where nothing is gonna either phase him or surprise him. While he's not physically what he used to be, those all factors remain, and as far as what Martin brings to the table, so his absence will likely be missed as the Cowboys move closer and closer to a top 10 pick in this year's draft. CeeDee Lamb, though, does claim that he will play on Monday, this coming after Thanksgiving. He played the first half. He maybe injured his shoulder. His snap count went way down in the third quarter, and then he didn't play at all in the fourth quarter of the Thanksgiving game. Wildly disappointing development as it pertains to CeeDee, who continues to have probably the most frustrating season of his career relative to expectations. Certainly, as far as fantasy goes, he was a top 3-4 pick this year, depending on scoring or format, and that has not worked out. That has just not worked out. However, he does expect to play Monday night against the Cincinnati Bengals. You simply have to start him as a wide receiver 2 if he plays. Breece Hall not participating in practice on Thursday. This was a concern that popped up last week when Breece didn't practice on Wednesday coming out of the Jets bye week. He ultimately played, but the fact that he was on the injury report coming out of the bye week looked like a potential concern. It's rearing its head yet again this week. If Breece is not able to go, again, I hope you were able to scoop Braylon Allen. If you were able to, he's on the RB2 radar, the RB2 roadmap against the Dolphins. That's who they're playing, right? They're playing the Dolphins. Yeah, the Jets are. So Braylon Allen, and that's a good matchup by the numbers. So Braylon Allen would be on the RB2 roadmap if Breece has to miss this game. And with the Jets season in the state that it's in, the Breece being on the injury report week over week is going to be not a good feeling for folks who have Breece. So hopefully you have Braylon Allen if you do. Jake Ferguson clears concussion protocol and is expected to play on Monday. I guess he's on the tight end 2 radar, the high-end tight end 2 radar with some volume and a great matchup potentially coming his way. But obviously this Cowboys offense is a shell of what we thought it would be coming into the season. Dallas Goedert not participating, staying on the tight end front. Dallas Goedert not participating for the second straight day for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is not surprising after coming out of the Ravens game. He was diagnosed with a week-to-week injury, a knee injury that was week-to-week. So Goedert not looking likely to play against the Carolina Panthers. Grant Calcaterra will draw a spot start and is on the tight end 2 radar, the tight end 2 roadmap, but nothing more than that. And is going to be a difficult guy to trust as a streaming option, especially because Devontae Smith has returned to practice this week after missing the past 2 games for the Eagles. Devontae Smith back at practice. If he is ready to go, him and A.J. Brown will dominate targets, however many targets the Eagles need against Carolina. There could be low volume in that game. It is a mismatch on paper. Devontae could be a difficult guy to trust in his first game back. But, regardless of whether he performs well or not, his return is not good news for ancillary guys like a Grant Calcaterra as far as production goes. So we'll keep tabs on that situation. But even if Devontae Smith plays, depending on who your alternate options are, I would tentatively plan to keep Devontae Smith on the bench for 1 week. 1, because he's, making his return to the lineup after a 2-game absence. And 2, there just might not be a lot of volume if the Eagles do what we expect and handle their business against an inferior opponent. Although Bryce Young is playing well recently. The Panthers offense has been looking good recently. So we'll see what happens. Take that one to Saturday, maybe. A call on Devontae Smith. DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift are not practicing for the second straight day for the Chicago Bears, so that is not a great sign for their availability against the 49ers. Keenan Allen did return to practice on Thursday in full after also missing practice on Wednesday, so good news for Keenan Allen. Rome Odunze would see increased opportunities if DJ Moore can't go. If DeAndre Swift can't go, Roschon Johnson is also, I believe, on the injury report with a concussion, unless he cleared that recently. No, he didn't. He didn't. He hasn't. He's not practicing, and he hasn't cleared concussion protocol. If Roschon is out, which looks to be expected, and if DeAndre Swift can't go, he could still practice in a limited fashion on Friday or full. That would be even better, and that would put him on track to play. But if DeAndre Swift can't go, Travis Homer, I guess, and Ian Wheeler figure to lead that backfield. So let's maybe avoid the Bears backfield this week if DeAndre Swift can't go. And honestly, if DJ Moore can't play, I'm not going to feel very good about Caleb Williams down his top target, even though Keenan Allen was the one who caught the touchdowns against the Detroit Lions. It's one less piece, one less high-end starter out there for Chicago. I wouldn't feel as great about Caleb on the road against the 49ers if DJ Moore can't play. So the Bears offense as a whole, one to monitor going into the weekend. Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, both practicing in limited fashion for the second straight day on Thursday. Amari Cooper is practicing in full for the Bills. Any streaming appeal that Dawson Knox may have had is gone if Dalton Kincaid plays. We'll see what happens with Coleman. And if he's ready to go, he's missed a little bit of time here as well. So that's a monitor situation. In all likelihood, we don't start either one of these guys, even Kincaid. Unless your option is Grant Calcaterra, then okay, fine, I'll start Kincaid, but he's been difficult to trust this year. Cedric Tillman not practicing for the second straight day for the Browns, and it is concussion protocol, so he's looking likely to miss a second straight game. Jerry Jeudy, it remains a wide receiver 1, not a wide receiver 2. Jerry Jeudy is a wide receiver 1 on the slate for week 14. If you grabbed him, if you picked him up, he remains in your starting lineup. And if he's not in there currently, we need to find a way to get him in there. He's a top 15 option, I believe, on the week. Elijah Moore also has streaming appeal. David Njoku is a strong tight end 1. Who am I missing for the Browns? I feel like there's one other guy. Am I woefully screwing the pooch on this one as far as Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore? I mean, it would be Tillman. Okay, no, not so much. The other guy who was running routes last week was Jamari Thrash. So there you go. For some reason, I was like, is there another receiver I'm forgetting about for Cleveland? But there wasn't. Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver 1 this week. Elijah Moore is on the wide receiver 3 radar, especially in PPR leagues. You can fire him up if you're desperate at wide receiver, especially if Tillman doesn't play, which is looking likely. Jacoby Myers, Aiden O'Connell, Zamir White not practicing on Thursday. O'Connell figures to remain on track to start for the Raiders. I think an illness is, for now, something that we can glass half full look at, that he'll be okay and feeling better by the time it's game time. Zamir White not practicing is noteworthy. Alexander Mattison did return to practice in a limited fashion on Thursday, so he will return. It will be curious to see what this Raiders backfield will look like. Will Alexander Mattison just kind of resume high-end RB1 duties for them? Will Amir Abdullah operate on pass-catching downs? Will Sincere McCormick get into the game after having a nice showing last week against the Kansas City Chiefs? It is impossible to know how this will shake out. Zamir White being out changes nothing for as far as, guys that you were considering starting. But this is a backfield that in all likelihood we want to avoid for week 14. And let's just see how things shake out. The guy I guess I would be most intrigued in stashing is McCormick. Madison hasn't been the best. He hasn't been great this year. And while Amir Abdullah is an intriguing guy on passing downs, he was healthy last week when McCormick got his run. So you would think, maybe when the Raiders want to run the football, it's possible they prefer McCormick to Amir Abdullah. The question will be, if Zamir White can't play, who do they prefer as a runner between McCormick and Madison? So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. But don't start any Raiders running backs. Mike Evans, Bucky Irving. This is a long injury list of guys going into Sunday, on top of a second bye Mageddon with 6 teams on bye. Mike Evans, Bucky Irving not practicing for the second straight day on Thursday. The vibe seemed to be that Bucky is okay, from what I have gathered. They're just taking it easy on him, and they expect him to be okay for Sunday. Not practicing obviously isn't ideal, but I think they're managing Bucky right now, and we can still proceed with some optimism about Bucky, even though he hasn't practiced yet this week. Evans is a different story. Missing 2 straight practices, coming off of a hamstring injury that forced him to miss a few weeks, a few games, is a little bit of a cause for a concern. Evans is going to need to practice tomorrow on Friday in a limited basis, at least limited fashion, for us to feel good about firing him up. But it's possible we need to start making other plans. If you have Mike Evans, keep yourself plugged in, see what the latest updates are tomorrow. If he does not practice tomorrow, we can comfortably operate that Mike Evans will be out on Sunday, and we got to make other plans. So we'll see. Ladd McConkey limited in practice for the second straight day on Thursday. It was initially feared coming out of last week's game that McConkey might not be able to play this week. That does not figure to be the case. It looks like he's going to be able to suit up. Back-to-back limited sessions in practice put him on track to play on Sunday. Obviously, we got to get through to that point, though, where he is removed from the injury report. We shall see. If Ladd is playing, you can fire him up as a wide receiver too in a matchup where you figure the Chargers are going to have to throw the football. And while that game is in Kansas City, I don't think the weather is going to be that bad as far as Kansas City weather goes. I don't think we have like a wintry mix or wind to worry about, but I'll double check that. And then the last thing I have here for the Rams, that's coming in a couple of minutes ago, Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Higbee are practicing in full on Thursday. So I guess it's possible Matthew Stafford has his full complement of pass catchers against the Bills. That's, of course, if Higbee is able to return. It sounds like Robinson is good to go and continue to operate behind Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. That's a tough matchup against the Bills, but it is a home game for the Rams. So maybe Stafford can come through, and when you have a guy like Higbee come back, that's a little bit of a boost even in his first game back. Okay, those are all of the injury updates that I have. I'll continue to keep tabs to see if any more drop down between now and kickoff. I can now get into questions. Again, special shout out to my members. They will be getting priority responses to questions or comments. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. If you're interested in becoming a member of the channel, you can find more details about that in the first link in the description of this stream and all the videos and streams on this channel. You could also send a super if you're feeling so inclined. You don't have to, but that would also be a line jumper and get your question answered faster if you would like. And then I will get to everybody else. So I just ask for some patience as I work through members and supers first. Regardless of whether you're a member or not, I only ask that if you're enjoying the stream, the conversation, all that good stuff, that you like the stream. That helps me out for algorithm purposes. Appreciate that. So let's kick it off. Herbert, Levis, Russell Wilson, or Jameis Winston. I've been going back and forth on this, and somebody asked me in a comment on a video earlier a very similar question. I think Herbert is the safe play because he's just been playing incredibly well. The upside play, and there's not a lot of downside. You're going to have to live with mistakes, but there's not a lot of downside as far as like there will be numbers there at the end of the day. Jameis Winston is the upside play. He might turn the ball over 3 times, but he can give you 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. They're playing Pittsburgh, the Browns are, so that's a tough spot. That's a tough matchup, and I believe it's a road game. However, Jameis has come in and delivered in bad matchups on paper pretty much since he was entrenched as a starter after Deshaun Watson went down. There might have been like 1 or 2 favorable matchups in there, but they've mostly been bad ones by the numbers, including against Pittsburgh on Thursday night a couple of weeks ago, and Winston came through. You figure that the volume is going to be there. They're going to have to throw the football. They're not very good at running the football, the Browns. So I would say Winston is the upside pick here. Herbert is more of the safer play. But the more I think about it, I don't think Winston's floor is that low. So I think my answer might just be Winston. As far as sitting 3, I would sit Mike Evans, back-to-back missed practices. it's possible that this story turns things around tomorrow if he's able to practice tomorrow in a limited fashion. But for right now, can't play Evans. Have to play Achane, have to play Kyron, have to play London. So I would update my answer from early in the week to say we should sit Evans as of right now. Back-to-back missed practices are not a great sign for his availability. I would sit Evans. I would probably sit. I think I said I would sit Jennings initially. Who do the Seahawks have? Arizona. That's not too scary. I would play JSN, I think, instead of Evans. And I would sit Evans, Jennings, and I guess I would sit who do the Cowboys have? The Bengals. I guess I would sit Tracy. I would play Achane. I would play Kyron. I would play Dowdle against Cincinnati. And then I would play London and JSN. And I would sit Tracy, Evans, and Jennings. And I would swap in Evans for JSN if Evans is able to play. Yeah. So I would start Achane. I would start Kyron. I would start Dowdle. I would start London. And I would start JSN. That's where I would go. All right. Crumply Heads has you dropped your rosters into Discord, so I'll take a look at that. I gotta pull up Discord. While I'm doing that, let's see what's going on, Greg. You have Love and Russ. Yeah, Love is a little difficult to trust. He's been pretty good, but he has had a couple of down weeks recently, and he's without Dobbs. This is a tough matchup by the numbers. Russ gets Cleveland. Cleveland has a good pass rush. But they can be beaten through the air. The thing that's doing it for me for Jordan Love is, Greg, is the fact that they are in a dome, no weather concerns. Must win. I mean, if you want the division, must win for Green Bay. Must win spot for them. Revenge game for them, right? The Lions won the first matchup. Yeah, the Lions won in Green Bay last month. So it's a revenge game for the Packers. I would probably play Love. I mean, they're both low-end QB1s, high-end QB2s. So I'm inclined to go with the guy that we've been banking on all season long, and he hasn't disappointed. I know he's down Dobbs, but he's a good quarterback. He'll be throwing the ball. He still has Jaden Reed. Tucker Kraft is a viable option. Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks are good enough depth to provide, to boost Love's floor. I think I say Love. It's close. It's really close, but I'll say Love. Yeah, it's close, but I would play Jordan Love tonight. Let's see. E111, what's going on? O'Connell or Cooper Rush? O'Connell gets Tampa, right? And Rush gets the Bengals. I think I saw. I think I might have glossed over this when I was going over injury updates. I think Jacoby Myers is not practicing on Thursday. Did he practice yesterday? Or are we like not looking good for Sunday with Jacoby? Jacoby Myers was added to the injury report today, Thursday, suffering an ankle injury. That is not great. I mean, Cooper Rush, if Aiden O'Connell is down to Brock Bowers and a bag of chips, I don't want to play Aiden O'Connell just because it's a good matchup. I'll play Rush. At least he has CD. At least he's getting Ferguson back. He has Brandon Cooks back. Jalen Tolbert, he can throw the ball to him a couple of times. Rico Dowdle could catch a dump off or two and turn it into positive yards to help him out. I would say Rush. He just has more to work with. O'Connell has the best player to throw the ball to between these two guys in Bowers, but Rush still has CD, whatever CD can give you at this point, plus some better ancillary options than what O'Connell would have if Jacoby Myers can't play. If Jacoby Myers is able to play, then I would probably play O'Connell. But if Jacoby Myers is out, then I would probably play Cooper Rush. Because, yes, O'Connell has Bowers, but what else does he have after that? At least Rush has CD and Ferguson and Brandon Cooks and Jalen Tolbert. That's not spectacular, but it's better supporting cast than what the Raiders would have without Jacoby Myers. So I'll say Rush. Okay, those are all the member questions that I have for now. If any members need anything else, let me know, and I will jump down to it. I can now jump back up to Crumply Heads had his rosters in Discord, so I can take a quick look at that. So yeah. Raiders offense absolutely won. We're kind of just in monitoring mode for now. If Myers can't play, and I just don't trust that backfield this week. I'm intrigued by Sincere McCormick, but not to the point where I want to play him. You have Devontae Smith in there now, Crumply Heads. I wouldn't be afraid to go with McConkey instead if McConkey's off the injury report, just because it's Devontae's first game back. And, the possibility exists for a down game against Carolina if there's not a lot of volume, Everything else looks fine. And then for your other situation, I would probably play Jennings over Marquez Valdez-Scantling. But that's up to you. That's a difficult spot because the 49ers are not looking great on offense, and it's not a great matchup by the numbers. So if you want to take your dart throw shots, that's fine. That's fine. And it looks like you could possibly use a little bit of upside. Play your team, your opponent has a lot of guys on bye, so maybe not. Consider Jennings if you want to play it safe over either MVS or Westbrook-Akine. Although at this point, I want to play Westbrook-Akine. All the dude does is score touchdowns. So MVS ceiling, Jennings floor. Everything else looks good. Crumply Heads, I think it looks solid. And of course, let me know if you need anything else. Okay. Daniels is on bye. So between Levis and Goff, Levis has a good matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Goff is up and down and has an intriguing matchup against the Packers at home. I probably lean Goff here. His range of outcomes is obviously wide. He could give you a strong QB1 performance. He could give you a terrible QB2 performance if all he does is have to throw the ball 17 or 18 times because the Lions, beat their opponent into a pulp. I don't think that happens, though, tonight, not against the Packers. So I do think Goff's volume will be fine. At home, throwing the ball to, two excellent running backs, Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, JMO can take the top off. I'm fine with Goff as a projected low-end QB1. His range of outcomes is all over the place, but I do think his floor is higher at home in a division game where I can't imagine that the Lions just blow out the Packers and do so early. Goff is going to have to do stuff tonight. Levis is just not as good. Goff is just better in a better situation, better supporting cast. Levis has a great matchup, and Calvin Ridley and Nick Westbrook-Akine, I think he just caught another touchdown, literally just 30 seconds ago. But I'll take the better player in the better situation, and that's Goff. I'll go Goff. And you try to get Garendo. So there is something to do about this. Well, there's a couple things you can do about this. If this is just a straight redraft league and there's no bearing on last place, if there's no, some leagues have a last place punishment, right? Or some leagues, they make an incentive for teams that miss the playoffs to stay competitive. The winner of the toilet bowl gets the first pick next year, or the winner of the toilet bowl gets to do something, make a rule change or something creative where it basically there's a rule in place set by the league going into the season to keep last place teams involved or teams that miss the playoffs involved and engaged, right? If it's a straight redraft league and if you're out, and it has no bearing on next year and there's no last place punishment, then yes, waiver pickup should be locked for those teams. If you are eliminated from the playoffs, you should be locked. Now, that is a slippery slope because I don't think it's easy to create settings that automatically make that happen. So my suggestion is for next year, implement a rule change somehow, some way that incentivizes teams that are missing the playoffs to compete, and then therefore it validates them making pickups. But if you don't want to do that, then you kind of need to make it, it's almost like a Scouts Honor type of rule, like honor code type of rule that eliminated teams that have no chance of making the playoffs can't make waiver pickups. And if they do, then the commissioner can use commissioner powers to drop those players from last place team rosters. So you got to either implement a rule, and I would always encourage bringing up rule changes right after the season while it's still fresh in your mind, because if you wait until the beginning of next year, you're probably going to forget about it. And that's not me to say, I'm not insinuating anything. It's just, it's months and months from now. It's going to, this type of stuff slips our minds all the time. Countless times I've wanted to propose a rule change after the season. I didn't do it. I was like, I'll just wait till next year. And the next thing I was like, I didn't remember it again until week 5 or 6 of the season, which had already started. And it's I forgot to bring it up when I thought I would. So bring up rule changes after the year, right after the year when it's still fresh. And either for last place teams, you either got to incentivize them to make to keep it competitive, either make a last place punishment or winner of the toilet bowl gets the first pick next year, something like that. Or if you don't want to do that, then you have to make an honor code rule that eliminated teams can't make pickups once they're eliminated. And it's going to be on the commissioner to do that work. So it's possible to navigate this stuff. It's possible to navigate this stuff. There's ways around it. Let's see. Start Westbrook-Akine over Devontae Smith this week. I think tentatively I would. Devontae is coming back from a 2-game absence against a Carolina Panthers team who has been playing better recently. They've been playing better recently. Their offense looks good. This is still a mismatch on paper. Now, we could get into all of, the Eagles just played a huge game against the Ravens, and this could be a trap game. whatever. On paper, the Eagles are the better team than the Carolina Panthers, and it's possible that there's not a lot of volume from the Eagles' passing game in this game, and that would limit Devontae potentially, assuming A.J. Brown maintains his wide receiver 1 target share. Westbrook-Ikhine, on the other hand, just keeps scoring touchdowns and is in a beautiful matchup against Jacksonville. I actually do think for 1 week, not week 15, not the fantasy playoffs, but for 1 more week, I would start Westbrook-Ikhine over Devontae Smith. I would not say this if it was a playoff week. I would probably tell you if it's do or die to play the best player, and that's Devontae. But fresh off a 2-game absence, I'm okay with keeping him on ice for a week and making sure just he gets through the Panthers game unscathed. And a kicker to pick up for the playoffs. I mean, I was advocating for Koo, but he missed another field goal this past Sunday against the Chargers, which was not good. Fairbairn, I guess. I mean, he's been good this year. I know he's on bye this week, so he doesn't help you this week, but I guess I would say Fairbairn. I think Romo had a decent day for the Vikings. I'm just double checking. He gets Atlanta at home this week, which is great. Yeah, Romo kicked 2 extra points last week. He had 4 field goal attempts. He made 3 of them. I mean, that's pretty damn good. Week 15, home against Atlanta. Week 16 on the road against Seattle. That's a little more dicey. Week 17, though, would be good. Fairbairn, on the other hand, on bye this week. I mean, he's been so money. Week 16 could be gross for both Fairbairn and Romo. Fairbairn is in Kansas City. Romo is in Seattle. But home against Miami for Fairbairn, I think that's where I would probably go. He's been so good all year long. And coming out of their bye, they'll be rested next week. Fairbairn would be my answer for the first week of the playoffs. That's where I would go. See, this is what I'm talking about, E111. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. We have this as well in one of my leagues. The loser pays. We have a live draft in August, and the loser has to pay for pizza or pay for pizza and wings or whatever. This is how you involve the last place teams, and then that way, when you see the person who's dead last pick up Isaac Guerrero, it's like, okay, I'm pissed because I didn't get him, but at least there was an incentive for this guy to play because he's trying to get out of last place. He or she is trying to get out of last place and avoid, paying the punishment of having to pay for dinner at the draft next year. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. So if you have a situation where eliminated teams are picking up players and there's no bearing on next year, you got to come together as a league, go to the commissioner and implement something new. And if the commissioner is not going to go for it, then, well, that's a whole other issue. That's a whole other topic. But then, you got to try to get the commissioner on board with hey, the person in 10th place, last place, going nowhere this year, and it's meaningless for the rest of this year. Just picked up the hottest waiver claim of the fantasy playoffs, and he's just going to go wasted on that guy's roster, that person's roster. You bring this up as an example of we need something to incentivize last place teams to play so that it at least validates them making pickups. And if you don't want to do that, then the commissioner needs to lock or block eliminated teams from making pickups. So there's ways around this. This is a great example. Have the last place person bring pizza and wings, or you bring a couple $100 extra bucks or $100 extra bucks to the cookout. Like, this is an excellent example of, like, if you lose the league, here's your punishment. It's harmless. It's not, it's not anything like degrading or embarrassing or anything like that. You just pony up a little extra money to feed people at the live draft or something like that. This is an excellent example. This is what I'm talking about. So Fairbairn is my answer for the kicker question. Best tight end for the rest of the season between these options. Like, I'm so tempted to say Noah Gray. I just don't know how much I believe that, because no matter what, he's the guy here who remains his team's backup. Disley, Ferguson are both starters. Juwan Johnson, I guess, is a starter, but he could mix in with Foster Moreau. I know, obviously, both guys are on the radar now that Taysom Hill is out for the season. I really want to say Noah Gray. I just don't know if that is the proper answer with him being his team's backup. We'll have to look at their playoff schedules. Let's see. Disley, I know Disley didn't do anything this past week, but he still was out there it just didn't come to fruition. Disley's playoff schedule: Week 15 home against Tampa Bay, Week 16 home against Denver, Week 7, which is actually like a weakness of Denver's defense. Denver has a good defense, but they can be beaten by opposing tight ends. And then on the road against New England, it might be cold, but New England's defense isn't good. I guess my answer is Will Disley based on those matchups. That's my answer. Disley has the most favorable schedule of this group. Ferguson, he's coming back from the concussion. The Cowboys season is in the toilet. Are they going to give Schumacher some opportunities? He has 2 good matchups, weeks 15 and 16 against Carolina and Tampa. That's pretty solid. Week 17 against Philly, though, is less than ideal. Juwan, I just, we haven't seen a whole lot from Juwan Johnson this year. He played well week 11. Well, he caught a touchdown week 11. I mean, that's just it. He's a touchdown or bust tight end, too. That's what Juwan Johnson is. He has 2 touchdowns this year. When he caught those 2 touchdowns, he was a top 6 tight end. He's been the tight end 18 or worse every other week. And I know that's all been with a healthy Taysom Hill, but we just don't have anything to go. Like, whatever. They've been down Chris Olave for weeks. They've been down Rashid Shaheed for more than that, for longer than that. They've been down for so long. They've had injuries for a while now. Juwan Johnson has not taken advantage really, outside of a couple of decent weeks here and there. Yeah, I'll say Disley. And I like Noah Gray a lot, but I think he's a dynasty stash. He's just going to continue to operate behind Travis Kelce. So that just puts him behind the 8 ball. Disley is my answer to this question. Yeah, Disley. PPR: Elijah Moore, Adam Thielen, Jalen Warren, Rome Odunze, or Braylon Allen. I mean, probably Allen if Breece Hall is out. Like, I know it's a caveat, but none of your other options are playing tonight, so there's no imminent decision that needs to be made. If Breece Hall does not play, Braylon Allen is on the RB2 roadmap. And would vault over all of these guys for me. I like Jalen Warren. I do. I like Rome Odunze, especially if DJ Moore can't play. But if my answer is Braylon Allen if Hall is out. If Hall does play in full PPR, I mean, Elijah Moore is a good wide receiver 3 for PPR leagues. Thielen should be a good, Thielen in theory should be okay, but it's a brutal matchup against Philly. I guess he could be okay if he'll operate out of the slot. He won't be on the boundary. But that could mean he sees Cooper DeJean. Yeah, so I don't know about Thielen. I like Warren. I like Elijah Moore. Do I lean Warren? I think I lean Warren just for like potential volume if Breece Hall plays. But if Breece Hall misses, then I would play Braylon Allen. I would play Braylon Allen. Yeah. Allen if Hall doesn't play, Warren if Hall does play. Full PPR, Jacobs, Pickens. Well, you're playing Jacobs, and you're playing Pickens. And my answer to your second question is no. I think those are your guys. I think that's who you have to play. You have to play Jacobs. And by the way, if you can move Jacobs to a position spot, do it. My always a PSA that I throw out on Thursday nights. If you have players going on Thursday night football, put them in a position spot. Maximize your roster's flexibility by waiting or using players that play on Sunday and Monday for your flex spots. Maximize your flexibility, pun intended. Put Josh Jacobs in the running. Unless your other two running backs are Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, then obviously put Jacobs in the flex. But always play your Thursday night football players in their position spots. Maximize your flexibility through the weekend because you never know what could happen between now and Sunday. But yes, you have to play Jacobs. You have to play Pickens. I like all of these other guys here for sure, but I can't play any of them over those first two guys. Yeah, Jacobs and Pickens are locked in over all of these other names. And yes, like I mentioned, O'Connell was on the injury report dealing with an illness. Tentatively, it looks like he might be fine. We'll obviously keep tabs on that one. It's going to be Desmond Ridder, I guess, possibly. If Aiden O'Connell can't go. So, God, even Brock Bowers would be difficult to trust if it's Desmond Ridder behind center or under center. Levis or Geno right now. I feel like Geno has been that guy this year where it's like he's been solid, but he leaves you wanting more. Like, I feel like that's a fair assessment of Geno Smith. Like, there haven't been a lot of touchdowns this year. Actually, he started off the year really hot. It's been quiet since then. Since week 6, Geno has one QB1 performance. Seattle played Arizona just 2 weeks ago, and Geno was the QB 20 on the week. Yeah, he only has 2 or more passing touchdowns in 2 games this year. Like Geno's that, like, that Geno is solid, but he leaves you wanting more. Levis is pretty much in that same boat, although he has been much better since he returned from injury where he missed a couple of weeks in the middle of the season. Levis, in 3 of his past 4 games, has thrown for 2 touchdowns. He has 2 interceptions the past 4 weeks, so cut down on turnovers a little bit. Has a beautiful matchup against Jacksonville. Even though it's a division game, it's still a great matchup by the numbers. Levis. And I don't feel super confident with that, but between Levis and Geno just leaves you wanting more. Like, it's like, why? Like, I feel like, why couldn't I get one more touchdown out of you? Why did we only end up with 1 passing touchdown? Maybe 300 yards passing, maybe, but like only 1 score. That's been his MO this year. He's been difficult to trust. I think I say Levis. I don't feel great about it, but the intangibles make me lean Levis. Let's see. And I'm highlighting E111's comment. This is for everybody. This is for everybody who deals with league mates who are eliminated from the playoffs, can still make pickups, but it doesn't matter for this season or next. Do something about that if that is your situation. Go to your commissioner at the end of the year and come up with some kind of incentive so that last place teams, if they are making pickups, which is, we want people to stay involved and engaged, let's give them a reason to do so. Like, I want to avoid last place so I don't have to spend $100 on pizza and wings next year at the draft. Something like that. I'm starring this one. It's a good call out. Do you start Watson? You have Christian Watson. You have Ladd and Evans, both questionable. Ladd is tracking to play. Evans is difficult to say right now because he's missed 2 straight practices. Now, obviously, Evans is a vet, and it could just be maintenance, just having missed multiple weeks due to this injury. They could just be monitoring his reps and taking it easy with Mike Evans. We know that Mike Evans doesn't need much in the form of practice to be ready for game day if he is physically capable of suiting up. We just don't know that yet. And unfortunately, we're not going to know that until tomorrow, which doesn't help with Christian Watson since he plays tonight. Do you start 3 wide receivers or 2? That would be my question. If you start 3 wide receivers, then I would play Watson tonight because we just don't know about Mike Evans. If you only play 2, then I would plan to play Tyreek and Ladd, because Ladd has been practicing on a limited basis this week, so that puts him on track to play. As far as Kraft versus Ferguson, probably Kraft. It's Ferguson's first game back from a concussion, right? Or was it a concussion? He missed a couple of weeks. I think that's what it was. Meanwhile, Kraft has done well with Romeo Doubs out of the lineup this year. When Kraft plays and Doubs doesn't, that's 2 games this year. Kraft has touchdowns in both games. So I'll say Kraft over Ferguson. Yeah, I'll say Kraft over Ferguson. I will say play Tyreek and Ladd if you start 2 wide receivers, but if you have to start 3, unfortunately, I think then you should probably play Christian Watson, because if you don't play Watson and then Mike Evans doesn't play, then what are you down to? You know what I mean? Like, what is your backup option if you need to play Watson and then Evan, or if you don't play Watson and then Evans is out? Like, what is your backup option? So maybe that answers the question. Because if it's like my backup option is, I don't even know, like an Andre Yosivas or a Tim Patrick or something, then it's like, yeah, just play Christian Watson and hope for the best. Or like a Parker Washington or a Jalen Tolbert. Or Sterling Shepard, somebody who's going to fill in for Mike Evans. It's like, I'll just play Christian Watson and hope for the best. You could pick up Elijah Moore. That's interesting. Okay. I would say if you need the upside, if you need to be aggressive, then Watson, because he's all or nothing. But if you think you can play it safe, if you just need like a steady option, then I would pick up Elijah Moore. So if you think if you're feeling good about your matchup and you think you could just take the safe route, 10 points is enough, then Elijah Moore. If you need to swing for the fences and be aggressive as an underdog, then Christian Watson. So it depends on what you need. My top 5 fantasy defenses for the playoffs. Well, I mean, I'm going to continue to stick with strong options if I have them. Pittsburgh, Minnesota, I think Philadelphia's schedule is solid. Like the Bills are fine. The Chiefs are fine. I like the Arizona Cardinals schedule, so they might be okay. Teams like that. So stalwarts like Pittsburgh, Philly, Minnesota, I'm rocking with them if I have them. Arizona has a good schedule. I think Buffalo's is, well, not week 15. Buffalo plays Detroit, so not that one. But I think week 16 and 17. And then, honestly, without knowing it all off the top of my head, whoever's playing the bottom feeders, whoever's playing the Giants, trying to think. Whoever's playing the Browns, Jameis Winston is a turnover machine. Jameis Winston's going to score points for his offense, but he's going to give the ball away to the other team as well. So whoever's playing Cleveland weeks 15 to 17, whoever's playing the Giants week 15 to 17, hell, I'll lump the other New York team in there because they're not impressive either right now. Whoever's playing the Jets weeks 15 to 17. Now, obviously, don't go chasing some just flat out underperforming, not good defenses. Don't go chasing the New Orleans Saints. Don't go chasing the New England Patriots. Obviously, don't go chasing somebody like the New York Giants or the Carolina Panthers or the Las Vegas Raiders. There's another team that the offense that you could theoretically target. But team defenses that are solid or better playing terrible teams, tanking teams like the New York Giants, yeah, that's what you want to target. And of course, it's going to be week to week. What if again, knock on wood, we never hope that this happens, but what if a big name gets hurt and misses a week or two? Then all of a sudden, an average defense might be in a great spot, So we kind of have to be nimble. We got to be able to roll with the punches when it comes to streaming, whether it's defenses, kickers, tight ends, quarterbacks. It all depends on a lot of different factors. A lot of different factors. Let's see. Disley, and then for this week, Disley or Hawkinson. Disley gets the Chiefs. That's a great matchup. Hawkinson was disappointing last week, but showed out the week prior against the Bears, and I'm not worried about his usage or return from injury anymore. I would go back to the well with Hawkinson. It's a great matchup. The Falcons' defense stinks. They're not good. I would think I would go Hawkinson. He's a little scary because they get that Josh Oliver guy involved. He's the backup tight end, and he's been getting involved. So obviously it's a little dicey, but I mean, Disley got a zero. They're both in great matchups. Like Disley is the clear-cut bona fide starter for the Chargers and did nothing last week with that. So, even Hawkinson with depreciated opportunities still outperformed him. They're both in great matchups. The Vikings are at home in their dome. I'll take Hawkinson. And then Caleb or Levis. I would play Caleb if his weapons are healthy, but we might not know that for a little while. We might not know that for a couple of days. DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift haven't practiced. If both of those guys return to practice and they're full go, and he has Caleb his full complement of weapons, he has DJ Moore, he has Keenan Allen, he has Rome Odunze, he has DeAndre Swift, he has Cole Kmet, he has all of his viable options to throw the football to, then I would say Caleb. If DJ Moore is out, I would probably actually pivot to Levis. So we got to keep tabs on this one as far as injuries to supporting casts. But I would plan to play Caleb. If he has his full complement of guys. Let's see. And you're not going to start. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Pick up Elijah Moore and you have him on ice if you need him if Evans and Ladd can't go. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Let's see. Looking for some high upside swings. So, well, Westbrook Akine is the definition of high upside. So, if that's what you're looking for, then I would make sure to play him. Garrett Wilson, it's understandable that you're worried about him. It's been bad. The production has dried up the past couple of weeks, and Aaron Rodgers looks terrible. Like, he looks terrible. You used to rely on Rodgers to be able to throw an accurate football like damn near all the time, and it's just not happening. He is missing his wide receivers regularly. Like the bad throws are on. That's what they are. It's not like bad catches, bad routes, anything like that, or dropped passes, bad routes, anything like that. It's like Aaron Rodgers is performing poorly right now. So there's only so much you could do as a wide receiver. If you have a quarterback throwing a bunch of non-catchable targets. That being said, Wilson remains a stud, so it's hard to sit him. But I am okay with benching Chuba against Philly for Westbrook Akine if you need the upside. I'm fine with that. Hubbard has been good. He didn't have a good game last week, but he's been mostly good. But this Eagles defense is about as stingy as it gets anywhere you look. They are dominant against the run. They are dominant against the pass. I wouldn't be surprised if Chuba had a tough time getting anything going on the ground against Philly. So, yeah, he's a volume-based RB2 this week if you can live with a lower ceiling. But if you need a high ceiling, then Westbrook Akine for sure. For sure. Of this group, I kind of like Stafford. I mean, I want to like Caleb Williams, but I want to like Caleb. The problem with Caleb is if DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift don't play. If DeAndre Swift and DJ Moore both play, if they are off the injury report tomorrow and they're full go and Caleb has all his weapons, then I'll say Caleb. But if DJ Moore is out, then I would pivot to Stafford. That's what I would do. I want to play Caleb, but if Caleb is missing his weapons, then I would play Stafford. Stafford has a tough matchup against Buffalo by the numbers, but if that's my backup, that's my alternate option, I'll take a guy who has Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua to throw the football to. But Caleb would be my number one option if his supporting cast is fully healthy. Because on top of that being a good development, Caleb will run at Caleb has a much greater chance of piling up rushing yards than Stafford. So Caleb, then Stafford, then Russell Wilson. Okay, and we talked about Elijah Moore versus Christian Watson. Okay. We are at the end of the chat. I don't see any other questions at the moment, but I will hang on for a bit longer. See if anybody has or needs anything else. With about an hour to go before kickoff. Again, must starts are Jacobs, Gibbs, Montgomery, and Amon-Ra. They are not coming out of your lineup. Jaden Reed, I think, is worthy of staying in your starting lineup. Sam Laporta should be your starting tight end. Tucker Kraft is a perfectly fine streaming tight end, depending on who your options are. And Jared Goff and Jordan Love are both on the low end QB1 roadmap. They both have their warts, but they have their upside as well. JMO is on the flex radar. Boom bust as always. Could come through with a big play. Could not, you know. Obviously, he has shown a lot of reasons for optimism just in general this year. So you could do worse than Jameson Williams, but just as always, be prepared for a low floor. Christian Watson is I don't mean to sound facetious, but Christian Watson is like a poor man's version of Jameson Williams. You're hoping for a big play and you're not expecting a lot of volume. But if he can hit on a 40-yard catch, then maybe he can give you a wide receiver 3 week when it's all said and done. Dontavian Wicks should be left on the bench, even with Romeo Doubs out for a second straight game with a concussion. And I'm not playing Tim Patrick on Detroit's side either. Sorry, Tim Patrick. I'm trying to think. Do I really feel that badly about Russell Wilson? No, I don't feel badly about Russell Wilson. It's also possible, as far as I'm going to go back to the quarterback question. I want to look at the 49ers injury report and see if Nick Bosa is practicing. Because if he's not, he's not. If Nick Bosa is out and they continue to, they are continue to deal with a bunch of injuries and issues on their defense, Caleb becomes even more viable. Let me just take a look at Russ's numbers really quick. I know he's been better. He has been better. QB4 last week, QB19, QB26, QB9, though. Yeah, no, my answer remains the same. Caleb and then Stafford. Okay. Is Tank Dell droppable? I understand wanting to, but I'd rather not. If you're desperate, here's the deal with somebody like Tank Dell. If you desperately need the roster space for somebody playing this week and you need to play that player because it's a must-win situation, then yeah, drop Tank Dell, because if you're eliminated, then you're not going to care about having Tank Dell next week. You'll just, if you're out of the playoffs, you're not going to care who's on your roster. So if you absolutely need the roster spot to pick somebody up that you want to start this week, and Tank Dell is your only viable guy to drop, then sure, fine. I'd rather not. I understand why you want to do it. Tank Dell has, for the most part, been underwhelming this year. I'd rather not drop him, but if you absolutely need the roster spot and he's the guy that it's just like it for one reason or another, he's who you have to drop to pick somebody up to play this week in a must-win situation, then yeah, sure, drop him. Yeah. If you're desperate for a win this week, everything's on the table. It's not going to matter if you miss the playoffs. If we lose and we're eliminated next week, then it doesn't matter who we added or dropped. We might as well swing for the fences now this week while we're still mathematically alive. So, yeah, he can be dropped. Flex 2, Jennings, Garendo, Waddle, Tillman, Coleman. Tillman is not looking likely to play, so we can rule him out. Am I really going to suggest Garendo? I might. I mean, just from an opportunity perspective, he's interesting. I don't trust. I can't trust Keon Coleman. The matchup is great, but the usage is unpredictable, and he's coming back after missing a week or two. Right? Didn't he miss? He missed more than one game. I feel like. I mean, it is a really good matchup. Yeah, he's missed the past 3 games, the past 4 weeks overall, including the Bills bye week. He's been outside he's only been like a low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2 twice all season, even in a good matchup. It's hard to trust him. Not Coleman, not Tillman. I don't trust Waddle. Waddle has just given us very little this year, and the matchup isn't great by the numbers. Yeah. My answer by default are your 49ers, are Jennings and Garendo. Because Waddle is uninspiring. Tillman probably won't play, and we haven't seen Keon Coleman for a month. I don't want to play him in his first game back. Jennings and Garendo. That's where I would go. Drop Disley if you have Ingram. You could. I mean, obviously Ingram is going to be Ingram's ceiling is gone. He barely hit it this year, really. But any chances that he had for like a larger season, a better season than he's had to this point, are gone without Trevor Lawrence. If you want to move forward with him as your starter, I get it. He'll come through with some volume. Mac Jones should continue to dump it off, check it down, and the short and intermediate throws are what he's going to be looking for. That's Evan Ingram all the way. So if you are intending to move forward with Ingram as your starter, then yes, it's fine to drop Disley for a running back or a wide receiver stash. Yeah, that's fine. And then Tyreek, Jawan, and Keenan Allen were sitting one of these guys. I mean, I don't think I can sit Tyreek Hill. I don't think I can sit Tyreek Hill. I think I would sit Keenan Allen caught the 2 touchdowns last week. That was something that is highly unlikely that he will replicate. Jennings had 3 catches for 56 yards against the Bills in the snow. His previous 3 games before that, he's had at least 5 catches for 40 yards. Other 2 games, he did much better than that. Keenan Allen, meanwhile, went nuclear against the Bears, and he had a good showing week 12 against the Vikings as well. He caught a touchdown there as well. This is a tough matchup against the 49ers by the numbers. And if DJ Moore is healthy, Keenan Allen's a tough player to trust, even though he's coming off back-to-back wide receiver 1 performances the past 2 weeks. I hate to say it, but I think my answer is sit Allen. I can't bring myself to sit Tyreek Hill. And Jawan Jennings has been more consistent than Keenan Allen this year. If DJ Moore is out, then I would probably play Tyreek and Keenan Allen. But if DJ Moore is active and is going to play, then I probably play Tyreek and Jawan. Tyreek obviously has been disappointing this year relative to his lofty expectations, but again, it's Tyreek Hill. Even in a bad matchup against Sauce Gardner, I can't sit him. I can't sit Tyreek Hill. Yeah. Tyreek and Jawan, if DJ Moore is active. Tyreek and Keenan, if DJ Moore is inactive. That's where I go. All right. Those are the questions I have for now. One more time, if you are, I don't see any members. I guess the members are all good. I guess they were taken care of earlier, which is great. But shout out to my members that I saw. I saw MVM, I saw Crumply Heads, I saw Greg, I saw E111. I think that was it as far as the members go. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for the support. And of course, thanks to everybody for coming in and spending some time tonight, hanging out before Thursday Night Football. Should be a good one tonight between the Packers and the Lions. I will be back this weekend for Start Sit Help. That is the best time to come and ask for your Start Sit questions when we have the most available information to us. We have the full slate of injury reports, practice reports, latest updates from the team. So as always, I encourage you to come back if you can over the course of the weekend to confirm any start-sit questions that when I involved or caveated with injuries that maybe will influence your decision. Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Sunday, I know that's during the SEC championship game. It's during the SEC championship game. So for folks who want to watch that, find a way to double stream, do the dual monitors. You'll have the SEC championship game on one screen, and then you got me on the other. So 5 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern will be a members only chat on Sunday morning. It will be available for everybody to view, but only the members will have access to the Sunday morning chat room. But Saturday is available to everybody if you guys need any additional assistance this weekend. But I think that will do it for me tonight. Appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out. Enjoy the game. Best of luck. Best of luck as it pertains to the start of your Week 14 matchup. If you've clinched a playoff spot already, congratulations. If you haven't yet, obviously this is do or die. I wish you all the luck. Hopefully we all clinch some playoff spots, and we're celebrating next week as we get ready for our postseason matchups. Enjoy the game. I'll see you guys this weekend. Thanks, everybody.